Ala Dam in Borno has been breached. Yes, that's the expression. Has been breached by the sheer intensity of the rainfall, and this has brought on, attendant heartbreaks across the state and its environments. We're speaking with some experts. We've called on the NISA, Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, and speaking with us from there this morning through our Abuja studio is Mr. Femi Bejide. Mr. Femi Bejide is Director, Operational Hydrology. A fine morning to you, Mr. Bejide. Thank you very much.
Good morning for having me.
Yes. Okay. What has happened over in Maiduguri town, where it is reported that somewhere in the region of 40% of Maiduguri is under water. I've been reading that, pathetic as it may be, it's not entirely unexpected that there would be floods. It's just that the extent of the floods is perhaps what has caught, maybe, can I say, NISA napping. Has indeed anybody been caught napping in all of this? Did you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Now you can hear me. I was just going. Okay. What the question I had asked is that even though we've been hearing that the floods were actually expected, this is its season. In fact, there had been advisories, there had been warnings that people should do everything they could to move out of the channels. But the extent of it surprising, and the breach of the, one doesn't know how to present it now, to pronounce it now, the Ala Dam, but A-L-A, I believe is the spelling, that dam.
Yes, Lao Dam.
Yes, we hear that its channel has been breached, which means damaged. Is that the primary cause of this devastation? Or, even if it hadn't been breached, might it have been fit for purpose, the dam? In other words, is the dam in any way blamable for this, for this occurrence?
Yes, the situation we have at hand in Lao Dam in Borno is, though the dam, the integrity of the dam, for some time now, over 15 years, is the integrity is a little bit questionable. But apart from that, the recent and current flooding there is due to excessive rain. And this rain coming down from Mandara Hills, flowing down to Sambisa Forest. And actually, Sambisa Forest slowed it down a little before getting to the dam. So the dam is a small dam. The capacity cannot contain such an amount of water coming to it. So that is what caused the dam failure. And all this is just, it's due to the excessive rain, actually.
Yes.
And for us in NISA, we're supposed to monitor that place, actually. But because, of course, anybody in Nigeria now, if you hear something like Sambisa Forest, everybody know what comes to people's mind, security threats and things like that. These are the reasons why there have not been able to be adequate because of the security challenge around that place. And due to the excessive rain, uncontrolled, coming to this small dam, which has a technical issue already on ground. So all this necessitated what is currently happening now.
Well, thank you for that brief overview. It almost looks like, as you said, excessive rains. Because I was going to ask that even if we had known that the rains were going to be, as heavy as they have been, was there very much that we could have done? Now, you said that it has actually been observed, noted that the Alau Dam, its integrity was not all that it could be over the past 15 years or so. What could have been done? Because it's like we've been reprieved. We Nigerians are prayerful people. Could it be that the power of prayers have sort of held us on over the past decade and a half, that it has been known that this has been the case? Now, you said Sambisa Forest slowed down the onslaught of the floods, and that relates to something else that you experts talk about, the dangers of deforestation and places being built up that shouldn't have been built up. Sambisa Forest has proved that in particular. What do we do now after the immediate concern? As we all know, the president has ordered emergency attention to the area from all the relevant agencies. But what do we do beyond this? Because we hear that even a zoo in the center of town has been flooded. A correctional center, has been flooded. And this has led to, it is thought, escapees from those institutions. So what do we do after this? I mean, we've been managing, as it were, for the past 15 years. So what, in the impression of NISA, needs to be done urgently, since emergencies don't usually, or do they, sound advance notice of their occurrence?
Yes. For us at NISA, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, we are charged with responsibility to monitor the nation's water.
I can hear you. Please continue.
Water resources, and the nation's water resources. So for us, like my DG is unavoidably absent here today, because he's on another in a meeting because of this flood. As you will recall, the vice president.
Okay, that's Mr. Umaru Ibrahim Mohammed.
Yes, it's already, by tomorrow they will be in Borno to assess what is on ground and what happens. So, but in immediate measures now is that a buffer, what is what we call a buffer dam, small earth dams that needed to be constructed so that in case of this kind of scenario, the water can be channeled to such buffer dams. So the same thing is, this is just precipitation flooding, flash flooding. There is still river flooding, which is the major rivers we have in Nigeria, River Niger and River Benue. And the waters that are coming from those entering Nigeria from those rivers are also, the water level is increasing. And we have, about 2 weeks ago, NISA issued a red alert to the nation, and also ensure that the dam management along that River Niger, Kanji Dam, and Jeba Dam, they were adequately informed. But all what we are seeing now is rain, precipitation, excessive rain within a short time. That is what is causing all this flooding. But temporary measures is to just create some...
Hello, are you... okay. You were looking at the pictures, I imagine. Those are indeed pictures of the Vice President visiting the scene of the dam. So, as you were saying, for a number of reasons, the dam, the Alau Dam, was overwhelmed. This is probably not the time for blaming or anything like that, but I don't know. The maintenance culture, Nigeria can be famous or infamous for its maintenance culture. Yes. So, sorry, please continue.
Yes. So in the month of August, just the last previous month, 29 states have been affected, and 154 local governments also have been affected. And according to NEMA, what they have issued out already, 661,201 persons have been affected, and we have 115,265 acres of farmland have also been lost. So when we look at all this, and we see that hydrological services plays a major role in national security, as you have also rightly said just now, that correctional centers are also being flooded, and you know the implication of that when inmates, because of flooding, when there is a jailbreak and they escape. That's why we keep on saying that hydrological services play a pivot and important role in national security. And that's why in NISA we prevent, whereas in NEMA also cures. And we know that prevention is better than cure. So national attention, federal resources should be adequately provided for a NISA to be able to carry out its mandate so that all these things can be forestalled.
Okay, yeah, I hear that. I wonder if there's an element of sort of a gentle complaint there, that because the Lord has been merciful over all this time when we didn't have a catastrophe on our hands, might we have gotten complacent? You just said that NISA, prevents, and the emergency, the emergency agency itself, what it does is that it swings into rescue mode. I was talking about our attitude, which is an arguable point, to maintenance. Now, if all that NISA, for instance, has been speaking about and been recommending about talking about explaining that this needs to be done, I imagine that there's precious little that it can do if, quality attention is not given to its submissions. Is there that aspect too, that look, we have the scientists, the technical people, we have the equipment, we have the wherewithal to be able to predict these things, but we also do have recommendations which might not have gotten all the attention that it requires, right, leading up to here?
Yes, you are right. Like now, when I roll out the figures of from NEMA, Nigeria Emergency Management Agency, you see, in that figure, you didn't even see also the loss of vital hydrological equipments. Because when flood ravages, it also destroys our equipments installed to measure such things. And they are also national assets. So what we are trying to say that the loss from the flood is so enormous. And these things occur year in, year out, that a national attention and intervention has to be taken place, have to be put in place to be able to address this holistically. This morning, at the Nigerian Television Authority, we hear that through the Vice President, that the present government is going to pay full attention to flooding in a bid to see at least to minimize the effect of flooding. That's a great way to go, and that's also will bring a renewed hope for the people, because paying attention to flooding is paying attention to national security. The work of NISA, we are just like immigration. We are just like custom. We are water custom. We are water immigration. Because this water coming in, apart from the rain, water coming in through River Niger into Nigeria is a transboundary river. That is a river that passes through about 9 countries before ending up in Nigeria. River Benue also is a transboundary river coming from Cameroon, ending up in Nigeria. All waters of these rivers passing throughout this country, they are coming into Nigeria. That's what every Nigerian should understand, every people should understand. Nigeria is a receiver, a big basin receiving all these waters. And because of the large land mass area of Nigeria, when we talk about rain also, Nigeria also receives a large share of water through rainfall. So from the river on the right, from the river on the left, and from above also, water from God, all in this same country, Nigeria. So much water, all going through Nigeria into the Atlantic Ocean. So Nigeria needs now adequately to see how this water is properly managed and channeled so that it will not cause devastation and not cause a lot of things that we are experiencing year in, year out. So there is need for channelization, there is need for building of buffer dams, there is need for hydrological equipment to be installed as strategic rivers and tributaries to monitor and to measure so that we will be able to adequately predict and also manage the water resources of Nigeria. As Indeed. A matter of truth, about 70% of all this water coming in from River Benue, from River Niger, and from above, from God, is lost into Atlantic Ocean. And not only lost alone, leaving a lot of devastation upon the lives of the Nigerians. So Indeed. I think it is time to renew the hope of the people, that when it is rainy season is coming, people will have hope that their houses, their properties, their farmlands will still be safe after the rainy season.
Because right now, this is a catastrophe.
Yes.
It goes without saying. We can see the pictures. It's coinciding with, harvest season for, quite yes. a number of crops. All of that is lost now. But what, I guess the question one wants to ask is that many people this morning on this program will be hearing about your agency, important as it is, Nigeria Hydrological
Services Agency.
Services Agency. And you've just said to us that, among other things, you're supposed to be monitoring our water resources. Could you give me a very brief sort of explanation as to the crucial nature of your agency? And you, especially as you yourself, you're the director of operational hydrology. Means it probably goes beyond just being in the office. Operational hydrology. Now, first of all, if you could start from that part about explaining about our water resources, because that which is a gift to us, a resource to us, is now what is causing all of these problems, probably because we don't have the wherewithal to manage it to the utmost capacity. So when we talk about groundwater, for example, okay, yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yes, hydrological services play a vital role in national security and nation's development. As a matter of fact, hydrological service is a renewed hope agenda in the sense that if you look at the devastating nature of flooding, not only in Nigeria, all over the world globally, is a climate change effect. So, and every year, you see the hope of so many people, farmers, ordinary people, in the villages, in the local governments, being damaged, being lost, being shattered. So, to renew their hope, attention to flooding is one of the major, critical role of these governments. And these governments have also promised, and they are also into, that's why the vice president was in Borno State, because right. It is a major factor in renewed hope. Nigeria is over 200 million people, and Majority of the population of Nigeria
that's the vice
are
president
farmers.
in that multicolored shirt, as you were speaking, just to sort of identify
yes.
him for people.
Yes. So, and hydrological services, to prevent this, in water security, we are there providing water security because water supply, ensuring adequate water supply for drinking and agriculture and industry. In also flood and droughts, we predict, as a matter of truth, by February, March, our annual flood outlook is released to the whole nation to see that this is how the flood in Nigeria this year will look like. We are also into droughts, forecasting droughts, annual drought outlook. Also, Nigeria services, hydrological services also play a critical role in food security because water is vital to agriculture through irrigation management, through water allocation. We also play a part in food security. In economic security, hydropower generation, water transportation, tourism and recreation. This is how NISA also play a part in economic security. What of environmental security? Climate change adaptation, understanding and mitigating climate impact on water resources, water-related disasters, risk reduction. This is our mandate. This is what we have been doing. We also contribute in what? In environmental security and also strategic security, like you have just mentioned, and I keep on repeating it. Flooding in the prison, in our correctional services centers is a threat to security. Watch it now. People have already been talking about water wars. I told about River Niger passing through 9 countries into Nigeria. If any country in upstream decided to put contaminate that river, as it enters Nigeria, we are taking it, people will die. Chemical weapons. That's why in our agency, we have hydrogeophysics department, and we have also where we use isotope hydrology to check all these things. So we are just like water immigration, water customs, checking the water coming into the country, and also monitoring it, and also making sure that the water is not contaminated, and also not only surface water alone, also groundwater.
Yes, because I was going to come to that.
NISA.
Groundwater.
So these are the critical role. Yes.
That's where we talk about wells, because
NISA
all these contamination aspects that you're talking about. Maybe boreholes will be safe, I'm guessing, you can explain, but wells, for instance, if this is a flood, all of those wells would, possibly have been polluted by now by all this kind of water. Explain that part to us, the safety when this flood would have receded, and how long is it going to take for all of this to recede?
Yes, all these things also depends on groundwater, and that takes us also to groundwater. It's also the mandate of Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, NISA. Now, let me take a classical example of Jigawa State. Jigawa State is almost on a flat plain. We call it flat plain. That means there is so much gradient, no slope in a layman's language. So when it rains now, the water, that is what we call runoff. When there is a slope, the water begins to flow down here and there. But in Jigawa State, the runoff is so little because the ground is relatively flat. So what happens is that when it rains, there is what we call infiltration. That means water going down into the ground, forming part of the groundwater or the groundwater. But there is a saturation level. That means a level that the ground also have already received enough water, or like a foam is soaked already. It can't take more. So any water that's coming out in form of rain will now be going to be flowing over land. So, and if the rain persists and the groundwater is already saturated, cannot take more, then what do you expect? Flooding. So that's a classical case of Jigawa State. But in most other states, most of the states in Nigeria, they are not like that. They are already inclined. So the water run freely, and
Yes.
the trees and the vegetation that's supposed to have also slowed the speed down have been cut down for household use, deforestation, make it easier again. So by the time it will rush down to people's houses, and again, most of these houses in the village are mud houses. So these are a lot of things that causes all what we are seeing and the devastations. So, but for the groundwater, we have the water coming in, and like the surface water, also is this case also in the groundwater. We have transboundary groundwater. Water that even transverse about 7-10 countries before coming to Nigeria under the ground. So if one point is contaminated, of course it will flow down. So that's why NISA, we have critical hydrological facilities that we install in all these major rivers and their tributaries. Although not enough, but at least sufficient. Like this flood now, sometimes we record a lot of loss. Not only loss of life, not only loss of properties, but also loss of equipment, which are national assets.
Which now have to be
So we have
replaced.
to look for, we have to look for billions of naira to get this equipment to be replaced. That's why I said that intervention is very, very necessary.
Okay.
Now, technology have improved that we can use drones. So we need to also to upscale and get to such levels.
Okay, tell you what, Mr. Bijide, we'll take a break now. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Information is power, information is security, information is knowledge. Unlabeled lens, we believe that working people around the world have real questions of their own. They want to know how the world of work operates, what it means to the employer of labor, how policies affect workers in the workplace. On Labor Lens, I ensure we engage effectively the organized labor, organized private sector, and government to get out of them information workers are in need of. I am Sharon Ijason, asking questions that make you get sense of the workplace.
Okay, welcome back, and our guest this morning is Mr. Femi Bijide, Director of Operational Hydrology. He's standing in for, the Director General, Mr. Umar Ibrahim Muhammad, who is unavoidably away, as he told us at the top of the program. Now, you've explained these things, a lot of these aspects to us, and indeed, in a sort of microcosm, the work of NISA. The equipment that has been compromised, damaged, washed away, whatever, that's going to need replacement. But thank God, as you just said, as we were going off that, well, nowadays, the lie of the ground is such that drones can sort of stand in, but that's not going to be as effective, probably, as installed features that you were relying upon before. Thank God for the drones, but you probably still need all of those for monitoring. But the one thing I wanted to sort of clear is that potable water now, is that compromised? Because there still is the need for drinking water, for cooking, for doing all the other things, especially in the area of operation. Okay, I can figure that you didn't hear me. I had just said, and I'll sort of repeat myself. I had just said, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm about to repeat myself. You can hear me now. Okay. So I was, first of all, how long is it going to take for normalcy to return. That is to say, for the waters to have sufficiently drained. And in the meantime, you know, we've spoken about there's the zoo in the center of the capital of Borno State. Reptiles have escaped, snakes, you know, crocodiles, alligators, those have escaped, creating their own kind of danger. But from the health perspective, how bad is it? Since people need water to drink, and we are trying to move people to higher ground. And thank you, by the way, for that explanation about the terrain. I think Jigawa, for example, you compared with other areas. And as you were speaking, I was just imagining the pitch of a roof, a flat roof, the way it will drain, as opposed to one that has a very steep pitch. So I could sort of relate a lot that you were saying to those situations. But how desperate is the situation from the point of view of, we've talked about agriculture, that is very, very clear, but even the health aspect, Nko?
Yes.
Please go ahead, sir, if you heard me well.
Yeah, the health aspect, of course, like we said, that after every flooding and then the waters have receded, of course, you see a lot of outbreak of some waterborne diseases. It's normal. Yes. Yeah. So, but what we do, that's why NEMA is charged with that responsibility to cater for the people, evacuate the people, relocate the people, take them to an island and a safe place, and also water at that point in time, because water have passed through unusual places, it has been contaminated. The quality of the water have been compromised by by flooding incidents. It will take some few days. Report that reaching us even from Borno now is that the waters in Borno, the flood water is receding as I'm speaking to you now. So sometimes couple of days, the water will recede, will have gone underground and also overflow and move down, you know, to the lower parts, the downstream. So health issues is expected, because people have, that's why one of the mandate of NEMA also, and what they are doing is they also provide portable drinking water for their people, because if they have to drink this flood water, it will cause a lot of waterborne diseases. So that is also taken into consideration, and NEMA is also doing just that. But for us, like I said, our equipment is a national asset, critical national asset, and have to be protected and taken care of, because it is very, the data we are collecting is very, very important to the security of the nation, and the flood we are trying to prevent and mitigate is also very, very important to renewed hope of the people.
Yes.
So, yes, very, very important.
Well, as you were saying, these are pictures, for instance, of where it isn't as bad, which would, you know, explain, which would be illustrating what you're saying, that there are reports that the floods are beginning to recede. We're not out of an emergency yet, but we just saw a street there where at least the tarmac was showing. In fact, I think it was yesterday or day before, we saw where the water level had actually met up with the the roofs of some houses. So that shows how bad. I mean, by the way, all of this water is receding because it's like its path was disturbed, but it was on the way to the ocean, right?
Yes.
It was
through
on its
states
way.
And local governments in Nigeria.
And that's why.
So that is very, very important to note.
And what you gave a figure of 29 states being affected, and so many hundreds of local government areas.
So far.
So far.
And this waters, we should know, is flowing downstream. coming down to the middle belt of the country, and Lokoja, and still going down through Anambra, Imo, down to the creek, the delta, entering into Bayelsa, to Rivers State, and into the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow.
So all these states have to prepare. This, like I said, is caused by rain. But the river flooding is not the one we are experiencing now. Because as of this morning in Lokoja, the water level is rising already. And at Chidere Bode.
So there's a distinction. You just pointed out a distinction that is important for the people to know, that there's the rain aspect to the floods, and there's also the
river aspect, river flooding.
And that itself is...
Nigerians need to know this.
Yes. That itself is caused by the rain, isn't it? What will cause riverbanks?
All this one we are seeing is flash flooding is caused by the rain.
Okay. The rains accentuate, and then you had also spoken earlier about
river flooding.
Yes. And also this new technology that Nigerians are beginning to learn, global warming, that all of this has...
Global warming, yes.
With
global warming, climate change, the effect of it is floodings and desertification, droughts. If outside the country you find cases like hurricane, Aggie, all those kind of things, the same thing also is happening in Nigeria.
But at least, thank God, we don't usually hear of hurricanes, typhoons, and that kind of we don't hear about that in Nigeria. But where you do hear about those ones, unfortunately for them, they also have their own floodings. Even in the US, in the UK, from time to time, we hear about, sometimes. Now, you were saying that the immediate cause of what we are experiencing now is the rains throwing in with all of the new all of these phenomena that you're talking about. So this is just because of the rains. So we actually have to keep our fingers crossed that as we are waiting for it to recede, that the rains don't resume, because nature is what it is. One just is banking, is sort of hoping against hope that in the midst of all of this, as it is draining, the rains that cause this particular situation don't suddenly, return. Because if they do,
we should not keep our fingers crossed. Because if we keep our fingers crossed, we will not do anything. This is a time to do something, and to do it very fast. So,
I hear you.
Nigerians, alert is a red alert. We should not keep our fingers crossed. We should move from the flood plain. We should move from the flood plain. We should move from the flood plain. We should clear the drainages. We should be alert, shine our eyes. We should be alert to see the river and the streams along our villages. If they are rising, it's already natural sensitization for us. So locals are supposed to know this. After this flooding of this year, I expect every Nigerian now to know and to understand better that at least generally there are two types of flooding. Let us say river flooding and rain flooding in a layman's language. Rain water, like one singer have said, send us the rain, send us the rain. God has sent the rain. Let us also, Nigerians, manage this gift that God is giving to us. There are many countries that there is no rain. So we have much rain. Let us now see how to impound this rain, how to build dams, buffer dams, earth dams, how to procure national hydrological equipment and place it in our rivers and monitor it. And when it is dry season, to release it for the farmers also to have water for the dry season farming. That's why the role of hydrological services is very, very key, not only to Renew Hope agenda, but also to national security. Let us get to a point that we say plenty water, flood, but no life lost, no farmland damage. Yes, that's where we are going. It's a renewed hope, and we are taking a step further gradually.
Indeed, but just as you said, you had said that rather than my expression of keeping our fingers crossed. No, just uncross those fingers and put them to work. I get what you're saying. Yes. That put the hands to work, metaphorically speaking again, just as the crossing of the fingers was a metaphorical expression. But it's also been pointed out that at the moment, when we're in the midst of the crisis, orders have been given by the presidency, by the president, for corrective measures to be taken, but we can't do anything in the situation that we're in. We're going to have to wait for the floods to recede, and you have said so, that you hope that in the aftermath of this, we won't depend as much on what has sustained us for the past 15 years, when you were speaking about the Alau Dam, that people will swing to work, and government itself will find it the resolution to do the needful in terms of maintenance work on those dams. Because you said additional dams, buffer dams need to be made. I don't know if that's the way dams work. Do we need to, when they talk about strengthening dams, is it just a matter of heightening them, or is it just the breaches? Because before even these dams were constructed, I would imagine that all sorts of feasibility studies would have been taken with agencies like yours involved, so we know what the dimensions of the dam was supposed to be. Is there a need for a review of all those parameters, or is it other forces that have been ignored that are now causing the stress that we see on our water resources systems?
Yes. Actually, why the last administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, a flood experts were gathered together from all water sector, and a national committee on flood mitigation was set up. And by the time that administration is winding up, a report was written and submitted. But the lifespan of the administration expired. But this new administration picked it up, and currently, as I'm talking, the vice president is the one overseeing that report now, given to him. They have looked at it, and that's why I said it's a renewed hope. Even for us, also, it's a renewed hope. At least it has been taken up, and recommendations are there. If I'm not mistaken, about 9 or 10 dams were preferred to be built, and as hydrological equipment to be supplied to our agency, because this administration now knows the importance and the critical role hydrological services played, not only in a renewed hope agenda, like I said earlier, but also in national security. Very, very important. So that's why you see the vice president already in
yes.
Borno State. People will say, oh, maybe because it's from that state. No, it's moving on to the other states also. Like I said, my Director General, Umar Ibrahim Mohammed, also with other professors, will also be going to Borno tomorrow. This is because of the critical role that this administration is placing on mitigation to flooding. So intervention is needed. Let also ordinary Nigerians, also everybody, like I said, flooding is a national issue. And I have said flooding also can cause a national security issue. So everybody has their role to play. NIMET, NISA, NEMA, federal government, state government, legislators, National Assembly, everybody, common Nigerians, farmers, now they are knowing they have their role to play. So let everyone play their role, and in few years' time, I believe by the time the first tenure of this administration will be winding up, flood will not be a major issue in Nigeria. And as you have been talking, you have also want to draw me intentionally. I refuse to comment on that. You are drawing me towards water. It's not God that provides this water. Nigeria pray. Of course, not only a director of operational hydrology, I'm also a pastor, but I intentionally not want to go there. But we thank God Nigeria prays, and I let you know on this television that the prayers of Nigeria being answered by God is what has made Nigerians to have been overwhelmed by flood before now. Because if you know the state of the nation and the state of our equipment and things like that, and the overwhelming water that is coming, will have been washed away if it's not the Lord that have been on our side. So indeed, God is helping Nigeria, and we are moving forward. We will soon get over all these things gradually. There is hope, and a renewed hope for Nigeria.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Mr. Bejide. We'll leave it. A fine compromise there. You wanting to stay professional and, as a man of science, but we've had a fine mix of it. Thank you very much for coming along and airing some of these issues with us. We really do appreciate it. We've been speaking with Mr. Femi Bejide, who is the Director of Operational Hydrology at NISA, and he's studying admirably, even if I'm allowed to say so, for the DG Umar Ibrahim Muhammad of the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency. Thank you very much, Mr. Bejide. Okay, so we're going to
Thank you for having me.
Indeed. We're going to have to leave it there. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh topic. I am Iyori Folare. Bye-bye for now.